have Mr. Hagan give you more detail, but all the stones that are currently there that make up the amphitheater would stay on site and be used in other ways on the site. So they'd be rearranged to make a wall and a play area and things of that nature. So they're going to stay on site. As far as the septic system, I don't think there's any way for us to preserve it. The septic system would have to be redone based on the scope and the size of the building and the location of the building.
I'm sorry?
Follow-up, if there are stones left over and they're not all utilized, could they be put into storage?
I don't see why not. I mean, certainly I think we could manage to do that, yes.
Gentlemen at the microphone, please state the name and address.
Bill Reed, 17 Ramsey Road. Question for Mr. Jerry or one of the school committees. We stated we're going to bond this over 20 years. Have we done enrollment projections that far out?
I think our enrollment projections go through, Dr. Trump can help me on this, but I think we're looking at between 1350 and 1450 out over 10 years. I'm not sure if we've gone out over 20 years or not. Yeah. What's that? You're correct. I'm correct. So we've got them over 10 years, and we're looking at our projections are a high of about 1,450 elementary school students.
And does the renovated batch take that into account?
It does. It does in combination with the other two elementary schools, yes.
In combination with the other two elementary schools? How about for the batch of the district? Have you got the figures?
Well, the Batch District, again, is probably the district that's growing the most. And the Batchelder School, if renovated according to this proposal, would be a full 4-section school. So the answer again is yes, based on our projections, the Batch School would end up becoming the Batch District.
Because what we all should be worried about is that the school will be obsolete before we finish paying for it. And I have a second question for, not for you guys. You guys did a fantastic job putting together this plan. I must commend you for that. But if there's anybody in this room who would like to try to answer for me why spending $16 million on a school is better than spending half or a third of that for a school over at Swan Pond, and why we have to put our kids through 2 years of nightmare relocation instead of none at all. Please do.
I'll attempt to answer at least a little. Sorry, Mr. Murray. The cost of the Batchelder project, let me start with the first part of the question, I'm sorry. The life of this building and its fit with the town's capacity needs is such that, based on the capacity that exists today, remember, district boundaries may change over time as districts grow faster than others, is such that it will allow the town to accommodate 10 to 11 sections of students for the foreseeable future. Okay, so should we suddenly have a build-up boom that puts us at 1,700 children, will we be back here? We have to talk about something. Doesn't seem like that's realistic right now. Anything is possible. So the superintendent's projection would suggest that the population range of 1,300 to 1,450 is very reasonable. The second thing that I'd like to point out is the cost of $15.7 million is approximately, and of course we have not updated these numbers, but it is approximately 10% more than the cost of an equivalent school at Swan Pond. So an equivalent school at Swan Pond, ballpark, would be about $14.5 million is the cost comparison I think you were looking for. So that's the...
Mr. Pasquale.
No, Pasquale, I got 3 or 4 questions. First of all, that property, all the time, the Historical Commission always raises the issue, it's too high, this, that. You got anything in writing that they love this? I'm not being facetious, Jerry, but I haven't heard anything relative to the Historical Commission.
Not in writing.
Well,
No, we've been trying to work closely with the HDC. I mean, we're very deferential to their concerns. We've met with them on a number of occasions. I know there's some of them here tonight. And then we continue to work with them on the design to see if we come up with or satisfy their concerns. I think the design you see, the design that we presented here tonight, is in large part a response to the HDC's concerns that we, from meeting with them, over a year ago.
second, my observation relative to the cost is that the citizens here are going to bear everything.
Correct.
So, we got the state senator here, we got Mr. Jones, etc. It's a historical. Are we applying concurrent with this, despite we may not have it? We got to pay go to the state or the historical commission in Washington DC, looking for some funds to offset this cost?
We've had some discussions with some of the people in the taxpayers group and others about some grants or funds that may be available, and it'll be our intention to work to get whatever funding's available outside of the tax levy. But again, those are things that I think we're going to have to wait to see if this is approved before we actually apply for them.
Third question
And I
has,
don't want to give the impression that any of those types of grants are going to significantly alter the tax burden, because I don't think they will.
third thing in my mind is the bachelor school is so sacrosanct, so is it the Swan Pond property. So is it the land down the street from my house on Chestnut Street. So I'm asking the question now, are we looking at getting rid of this land? Because how many schools do you think you're going to build around here? Swan Pond, I'm just saying, unless you've got a plan in the future, that could be offset. The property over there on Chestnut Street, right now is going to get surrounded by this big unit that somebody raised their hand that wants to put on the other side for 155 units. So why would you want to have a school next to that? So there's land there, and I'm asking, what are we holding on to it for? Because the cost would help against the project.
Well, again, John, I'm not sure that you necessarily defer any parts of this project with monies from those lands, but at this point in time, the school committee's made a decision not to do anything with that land. That's not to say that it's not open for further discussion, but certainly at this point, we've decided not to transfer the land back to the town.
The last question has to do with the roadway itself. Is the fire chief, the police chief, if they looked at this, because that's one of the most toughest intersections on Park Street in the first place. Are they going to widen the road? Is it going to be the same to get on the property? Because you're going to have the high school students with teachers over there, plus other people that are going to go to the bachelor school all on that one road. And I'm wondering if it's going to handle this right.
Are you talking about the access road into the schools?
They said they're only going to have one access road.
The plan is to widen that access road so that the handler traffic, particularly the buses that will be coming in there for the elementary school.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pasquale. President Maria, please state your name and address. No,
Mr. Mayor, Dave Putney, 20 Riverside Drive.
Mr. Putnam.
Question I have is, so the projection, just want to make certain, the projection right now for enrollment and making certain we can meet capacity is only up to the next 10 years, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so being as we're spending, or proposing to spend $16 million on this upgrade, if we do exceed our enrollment, 10 years and beyond, and we're still paying for this, do you have an idea or a plan such that we're not deconstructing half of the $16 million renovation in order to create another expansion 10 or 15 years down the road?
Again, I don't think that we have a plan to deconstruct it. Again, the projections are about 1,450 students, probably max over the next 10 years. Beyond that, it's difficult to tell, but we do feel that we're approaching close to build-out in town. I know there's some projects in the works that could increase the number of students in North Reading, increase the enrollment. But we feel comfortable that the 1,450 gives us some flexibility because these buildings, as completed, will allow us to have up to 11 sections per grade, which gives us a little bit of flexibility. And some sections are going to be 10, some grades are going to be 10, some are going to be 11. But we're comfortable that we can get through the next 10 years with the buildings we proposed.
Okay, if I may follow up.
Go ahead.
My question was more on getting beyond the next 10 years. You're confident we can meet 10 years. We're going to be paying for 20 or 30 years. During the course of the 20, 30 years, we may need to expand again. Are we going to have to deconstruct what we're paying for over that?
I can't imagine that we'll do that. I mean, obviously, if we need additional space, we'll address additional space in 10 or 15 or 20 years. Probably won't be me or a lot of us that are here, but we'll do that. But obviously, the building that we're going to build is got a life that's significant, I'm sure it's 30, 40, 50 years. So that space is going to be there. If additional space is needed, it'll have to be addressed at that time.
Thank you, nice work.
Mr. Durkee?
I'd just like to address a little of what's been asked about long-term population. The Community Planning Commission has done some extensive studies. They've looked at how many buildable lots remain in town. They've made reasonable allowances for how much of that land would be needed for roadway. They've done a great deal of work. It is predicated on existing zoning laws, and of course those can change. Changes can be imposed on us by the state. But we have looked at the implications of build-out in this community, and the best estimates for long-term steady state give us approximately 240 to 260 students per grade, closer to 240. Now, our current standard for elementary grades is 22 students per classroom. And 11 classrooms gives us 242 students per grade. That's what we're currently planning to construct. If we have 250, spreading 8 extra children over 11 classrooms is not a terrible thing. And the long-term projections don't put us really over 250, just occasional bubble years. You do get bubbles in enrollment. The other thing that's important to consider is that the best school size is really 3 or 4 classrooms per grade. So the structure we're proposing to build at the Batchelder site is really the largest reasonable school size that you would want. Now, when we originally started this process, we were thinking 10 or 11 classrooms per grade. The original proposal really was 10, 3 classrooms each at the Little and Hood and 4 at the third school. When we got through with the Little and Hood and got closer to constructing the third school, we realized we probably should be looking at 11 classrooms per grade. Now, the extra classroom has basically been built now through modulars at the Hood and Little School. We will have the 11 classrooms per grade. A time will come in about 10 years when the modulars that we put at the Hood and Little will either need renovation or some kind of work, and we may want to make a decision then about how much money to invest in that and how to do it. But for that period of time, a 4 classroom per grade school at the Batch will meet our needs in what is really an optimal school size. And when we reach the end of that 10 years and are looking at what to do with the modulars we've installed, we will have a different decision to make. But it will be a more modest decision, and it can be informed by what the enrollment projections are at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Durkee. Gentleman at the microphone, and then we'll take Ms. Bailey.
Howard Solomon, 37 Spruce Road. I've actually got a small prepared text I'd like to read. It'll take about 3 or 4 minutes with town meeting approval, but it might be more appropriate to let the other speakers go first. That's up to you.
Please, how long did you say you would
3 to 4 minutes.
3 or 4 minutes, by all means, do it now.
May I come up front?
Certainly, ma'am.
Good evening. For those who do not know me, my name is Howard Solomon. Having served as a member of the Historic District Commission since its inception, for the past several years I have served as its chair. I'm speaking tonight as a commission representative, not an individual commissioner nor an individual voter, although I do have my own views on the situation at hand. My comments tonight will try to shed light on our process, our view of the proposed project, and where we go from here. At the end, I will be happy to answer any questions you might have that the moderator deems relevant. The Historic District Commission is charged with caring for the Center Village Historic District, comprising our beloved town center. The Batchelder School and the site on which it sits is a centerpiece of the district, alongside the